We're all searching for it, or people. The ones you can call when you're at the end of your rope. The ones you ask for advice in a difficult stage or deciding on which jeans to buy. The ones who you share dreams and hopes with, who get you to the gym and love your kids like their own. Motherhood was never meant to be a solitary role, and now it doesn't need to be. Here we discuss everything from our favorite kidisms to mental wellness to our best mom hacks and more. Mamas are world changers, and it's time to stop bearing that responsibility alone. So whether you're driving carpool, rocking a sleeping baby, or doing dishes, we're here for you. Welcome to the Village.
Welcome to episode 19 of the Village podcast. I'm Missy Allred, your host. Today, I wanted to give you the free class that I taught this week on creating more time as a busy mom. So here is that recording. I hope this is so helpful for you and you can start to see lots of ideas of how to create more time so that you can spend more time with your kids, spend more time for yourself, and see where you're already doing a really good job and some little things that you can tweak that make a huge difference. We are going to talk about creating more time as a busy mom because I know that you have so much going on, and if we could make some more time, that would make such a big difference. I would love it if you guys can participate, even if it's, you don't have to turn your cameras on if you don't want to, that is totally fine. But the more we can kind of talk through this, the more that you will get out of it, and those who are watching the replay, they will be able to get out of it. So we can kind of do some coaching and have this be more of a discussion rather than just me talking. Okay, what do you want more time for? Tell me some things where you're like, okay, I really want to be able to do this, or yeah, but what do you want more time for right now?
I feel like everything. No, but I don't know, definitely more time like for myself.
Yeah. Okay, what do you want to do with your time for yourself? Because I feel like this is kind of the other problem is sometimes, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but I think we have more time than we think we do, but then we don't know what to do with it when we do have time. And so then we sit and scroll social media or something like that. And then we're like, I didn't actually want to do that, but I just spent the last hour doing it. So what do you want to actually do for yourself? Like, what is something that, I wish I read more, or I've always wanted to try this. Like, what do you want to be doing?
Um, for me, I definitely like would love more time, like you said, like reading or working on my own projects. I feel like it's so hard when I have kids running around to be able to do that, but I also have tried to make time for that. But then it's, I don't know, just finding a balance in that has been the most difficult thing for myself.
Okay, what would a balance look like for you?
I don't know, that's a great question. But
Be thinking about it, because balance is kind of like an arbitrary thing where we're like, we want more balance, but we haven't decided what that would even look like. And so we always feel unbalanced because we haven't defined what that is. Um, and and I would also say to be careful, and that balance does not mean equal, whether that is, equal time with your kids, equal time for yourself, um, equal time with your husband. Like, think of like a pie chart. It's not going to be all, 25% or whatever the whole way around. And it's also probably not going to be quote unquote balanced every day. So, like, what I mean by that is there's going to be some days where you spend more time with your kids. Maybe you have some adventure planned, you're on a family trip, or you just drop your to-do list for the day and you're like, we're just going to play and have fun because we can. I think especially as summer, this is timely that way where I know Bethany, at least you have young kids that aren't in school, but I still feel like there almost feels like a shift, even if you're not going back and forth to school. It still feels a little bit different, even if that's just because everybody else has a shift in what life looks like during the summer. Your balance may not look the same every day. And so being able to look at it as priorities or as like a balance per week or, a little bit bigger picture is sometimes helpful too, where day to day, we are never going to find a perfect balance where everything is exactly equal. That's just not going to happen. And that's okay.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point because for me, I feel like um maybe I do kind of think, oh, maybe it should be equal, but um or I spend way more time with my kids and I spend more time for myself. So like um I don't know. Whatever you just said made perfect sense.
Good, I'm glad. Okay, so just as you're as we go through this, be thinking about maybe what your balance can look like. Again, whether that's on like a weekly basis or just thinking about, we'll talk about this more in just a little bit, but just thinking about your priorities and the things you want to be spending more of your time doing. So with that being said, what do you want to spend less time doing?
I know I want to spend less time doing scrolling.
Mm, why?
Because I definitely tend to go to that, especially at night or like in the evenings when the kids have gone to bed. And then I'm just sitting there because it's like, you're like, okay, I finally have some time to myself. And I'll even like turn on the TV or whatever, but then I'll still find myself like grabbing my phone and just scrolling because even through the show and whatnot. Um, but yeah, so definitely that for me, just because I find myself doing that a lot if I have downtime,
Yeah,
because it's just easy.
yeah. Why is scrolling a problem?
I feel like it's just for one, it's easy because it's on the phone,
Mhm.
um, which is with us all the time. But well, it can just be like, is it just you don't realize how much time goes by or how long you've been doing it because it just kind of like sucks you in, and so then you just keep scrolling for a while, and then you're like, oh, now I've done it for like an I've been sitting here scrolling for like an hour, and I could have cleaned my kitchen or I could have watch my show that I wanted to watch or do something else.
Yeah. Isn't it so funny that even with something like a show, you still want to be more present?
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to what we were talking about before of like, what do you want more time for? And sometimes you just don't even know. And
Yeah,
so being
exactly.
able to specifically say, I want to watch a show and just watch my show.
Yeah. I think I have a hard time sometimes like shutting my brain off enough to even just focus on like watching a show. And it's not even anything like intense. Like I usually turn on like HGTV or like Food Network or something, but it's like I want to be able to focus, but my brain I'm thinking about like too many other things, and so then I end up just scrolling my phone because it's easier to, it's like a distraction from what I'm actually wanting or needing to feel or think about.
Yes. 100%. You absolutely nailed it on the head. We're going to come back to that towards the end, but I want you to hang on to that because that is such a key. And I think social media is like the biggest culprit of this, but we avoid emotions, even if that emotion is simply boredom. We have such a
Hmm.
hard time being bored. And then we expect our kids to be bored.
I was just thinking that. I was like, I'm trying to teach my kids, like, I mean, they don't come to me a lot saying, like, oh, I'm bored and, whatever. Like, usually they find something to do,
Mhm.
but they do sometimes. And I'm like, well, you have a million things to do. Like, you have so many options. And so I start giving them options, and they're like, but I don't want to, And so
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I'm trying to teach them, like, well, then you're just bored. Like, you're gonna have to deal with it. And then I'm not dealing with it.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Oh my goodness. I think that is probably one of the biggest culprits is boredom.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. I think especially because like we grew up where we didn't have, I mean, like my summers I spent outside.
Oh yeah, for
Like my mom
sure.
was just like, go play outside. Like we're not gonna do TV. I didn't have phones, we didn't have tablets. Like that was
Yeah.
the thing. Just just interesting things to think about as we go through this. Okay, what drives you crazy and why does it drive you crazy? One thing that drives me crazy is like things on the floor. Like I vacuuming and sweeping is like magic to me. Like if I can do that, my whole house feels cleaner. Or like if I can just wipe off my counters, even if I have a sink full of dishes, but there's not like crumbs and spills on my countertops, somehow my whole kitchen feels cleaner. I feel less overstimulated. So what are the things that drive you crazy and why?
Yes, exactly that. Um, you were talking, I'm like, uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, like walking around, like feeling things on my feet, like drives me absolutely nuts.
Oh,
So yeah, vacuuming is like the one thing I actually enjoy because it's like instant clean satisfaction.
yes.
Um, but yeah, like little messes everywhere like drive me nuts. So then it feels like a lot.
Hmm.
Um, like, the table always is like the drop zone for
Yeah.
all of us. Is like everybody comes in and drops their stuff there. But yeah, like little just things left around everywhere. And it's not like I'm not doing it. I mean, I'm doing it too, but it's just yeah, so then it all just becomes very overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. Another one for me I was thinking about is like I don't even mind the toy messes. It's when the toy messes are literally strewn through the whole house and there's just like this trail everywhere. If it was all contained in one room, it would drive me less crazy. I
Yes.
still very much prefer a clean house. And my toy room, my house is kind of funky, where my toy room is like this open area literally in the middle of my house. And so I have to walk through my toy room to get anywhere. So my house kind of always feels messy. But even if it's just contained in the toy room and not running into my room and through the kitchen and the dining room, it still feels less overwhelming to me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely that. Like if I can, because we don't have like a designated toy area, it's just like their rooms.
Mhm.
And so yeah, when it's like all through the living room, which they tend to do, and sometimes I'm like, no, you can play in your room. Like you don't have to bring it out here.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah. So I don't really know why it drives me crazy. I think because it just becomes overwhelming for me.
Yeah. We're overstimulated and again, it's like that if we can contain the mess, right? So like the counters, if we can contain the mess in the sink, it's one place instead of everywhere.
Multiple, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, again, we're gonna come back to some of this in just a minute when I give you a little bit more of like, okay, here's some actual tangible things you can do. But I just wanted to kind of get your mind thinking of like, okay, we can kind of narrow some of this down into what are my, what do I want? What are my biggest problem areas? It's all going to come together in the end. So, okay. And then lastly, what are you making your to-do list mean about you?
Probably too much about myself than it should. Or my productivity, I guess. I think I probably make it a little bit too much about myself.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about this. So, if if you end your day and you're like, I wasn't productive enough, therefore, what? For example, for me, if I my automatic response is if I didn't do enough, I am not enough. I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not a good enough wife. I'm not a good enough person. In general, my to-do list determines my worth.
I feel like I'm a lot of that the same. for I I've had a I've had a really rough week, and I think a lot of that is due to hormones. But um I like we had to make cookies for a family get together this last weekend, and um the cookies didn't turn out like as well as I was hoping. Like I've made that recipe so many times, but for whatever reason they were coming out flat. And I was like, why is it coming out flat? And I was just getting so down on myself about it. And I realized I was just making it more about myself than about like the cookies. And there was no reason to do that. And so I don't know, just getting stuff done, I've definitely noticed that I do kind of like, oh, I'm not enough. Since I didn't do this well enough, I'm just not good enough. I don't know. I think that's just been my hormonal thing this week. But
Yeah.
usually I'm not like that, but it just happened to be the way it was this week for me. And so going back to like the to-do list, like I was saying, is like my mind is just like, okay, I have to get this done and this done and this done. And if I don't get all of it done in a timely manner, like I make it mean more of it means on to me, like as a person, and I need to subtract that. I know I do. I just am struggling knowing or no doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Couple things here. Um, First of all, I think you brought up a really important point, and that is the difference between shame and guilt. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. So like with your cookies, I mean, not that you like did something bad, because sometimes I swear things just happen. I'm totally with you.
For sure, for sure.
But you made cookies not rising mean something about your identity. Which when you can take a step back and the hormones aren't crazy, because I mean that's like a whole other thing too of like give yourself some grace, because we're women and we have hormones that cycle big time throughout the month. Like being aware of that is super important. Just to kind of, like I said, give yourself some grace and see, oh, I tend to act like this during this part of my cycle, right? But again, you made cookies not rising mean something about your identity, which sounds so silly, but we do it all the time. And so being able to take a step back and say, I am not bad. I quote unquote did like what one action was wrong. Maybe it was like not enough flour. Maybe you measured different that time. Like that's you're like did something wrong, so to say. But yeah, just being able to differentiate between your identity, who you are as a person, who you are being, versus one thing that you did one time, and this goes so much deeper too. Like, I mean, you could even think about this as I yelled at my kids and therefore I'm a bad mom, when that is not actually true.
I was thinking, like with the two, is like, oh, I wasn't, if you're saying like I didn't get it all done, then I'm not productive enough, basically. And I definitely feel that when it's weird. Like I love lists, but I hardly ever like make an actual to-do list for the day. I'm always just like thinking about it in my head, and I'm like, oh yeah, these are the things I want to get done, when I feel like I should probably write them down because it'd probably help my brain better. But I definitely feel that where it's like, oh, I wasn't productive enough because I didn't check off every single thing. Whereas most of the time, like that's not going to work out. And like just this last weekend, our plans changed like 3 different times on like things that we were going to do. Like the kids were having a cousin sleepover at my sister's house Saturday, and then it got changed to Friday. And then Saturday there was something going on. And so it was like the housework got shifted to different days that we were planning to do. And free time from the kids was like shifted. Like it was just like constant shifting around. And so then I was like, I should really just start thinking in my head, like things are probably not going to go the way I planned most of the time. So I need to have like a backup on like, this is what I'll do if things change or whatever. Because
Yeah,
honestly, with kids, most things don't go as planned
totally.
90% of the time. And then, yeah, with summer or not summer ending, school ending and summer coming, I'm like, okay, so they're all three going to be home. So I have to like plan around that.
Mhm.
But yeah, rather than thinking like, oh, I have to get everything done, is like, as long as I get these few things done, like that, I'll feel good today.
Yeah. And again, sometimes even looking at it bigger of like, I need these things to happen this week. Some
Yeah.
things are totally a daily thing, and some things, if they don't get done that day, like it feels like the end of the world a little bit. Even if
Yes.
that's just because, well, I was going to do it today and I didn't get to it. But kind of like you were saying, of plans change and what took its place. And that became the most important priority, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we're going to talk about next. So, creating more time, what makes the biggest difference? So, a couple different ways to think about this is like we were talking about before, if I can clean off the counters, even if dishes are in the sink, that makes a big difference. If I can contain a mess to one room, that makes a big difference. But also, kind of thinking about this a little bit differently of what are your top 2 to 3 priorities? Because probably your kids are way up there, right? But how many times have you said, just a minute, I'll get to that, or I'll come play with you in just a minute, let me finish this up. But then, like that, just a minute never comes. And you got to the end of the day and you're like, I never spent that one on one time with them that I meant to. Or I've been saying that we were going to play this game and I never got to it because, something else happened or then they got distracted and then, the moment kind of ended. What are your top priorities? What makes the biggest difference for you?
I definitely think like that, like even something small. Um, I definitely tend to do that, especially if I'm like trying to get something cleaned, like trying to get the living room clean or the kitchen or whatever. And the kids are like, "Well, can you come do this? Like, will you come do this with me?" And I'm like, "Okay, I just want to get this done. Like, I just want to get this cleaned up." And then I tend to like if my youngest is asleep and one of my older kids is like, "Will you play a game?" I'm like, in a minute," because I'm like, "Okay, well, he's sleeping, so I can get stuff done." Yeah, like it's okay. I can do that later and it's not, or maybe it's not a big deal that I don't get that done today. What's more important right now is spending this time with them.
Yeah.
And it's going to make a big difference for them later in the day. Like they probably won't have as many meltdowns or act out as bad because we've already had that time and they won't get as upset.
Yeah, 100%. And I also think this doesn't have to be like sometimes what you're doing needs to come first because, whatever circumstance it is, and that's okay. But really, I think that our kids are our top priority, but we kind of it feels like the housework is more important. But I think you hit on something, Jen, where you said that it will make a bigger difference now and it will fill their tank and it almost creates more time later where you can fully focus on that. Because I think that's kind of the other thing we really struggle with as moms is our our attention is constantly split.
Yeah.
When we're with our kids, we're thinking about the housework. When we're doing the housework, we're thinking about spending time with our kids.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so, yes. And so being able to like, my kids are my priority. And so actually putting that first and believing that a pocket of time to finish what we need to do with the housework. I mean, really, that's kind of the biggest one, right? It's like it's kids and housework. But believing that a pocket of time will create itself to finish what you need to do. I think is really helpful because sometimes it feels like we'll never get to it, but like there's always dishes to do, there's always laundry to do, there's always something to clean up. Like, you know, it'll get cleaned up at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, like I've started trying to be specific with my kids as like, and then it helps me too, where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to finish washing these dishes and then I can come play with you. Or, you know, and like, and then it does help my brain too, rather than just being like, okay, just give me a few minutes, just a few minutes, you know, because then I'm not thinking like, okay, I'll just jump to something else after
Yeah.
I finish these. I'm like, okay, that does help my brain to be like, okay, well, I will finish these and then we can play a game, or and then I'll get you your snack or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Another thing you can think with this is on the housework side of priorities is what are your non-negotiables to stay sane?
Yeah.
And everything else can be put off. And again, you know it won't get put off forever. The toilets are eventually going to get cleaned. Of
Yeah.
course they are, right? Being able to, again, especially as we're going into summer and our schedules shift a little bit and like we want to play with our kids, we want that to be our biggest focus. And also at some point the housework has to get done, right?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
what are like the absolute musts and what can be put off, which goes into this next part of if it's not an absolute non-negotiable, you need to be doing it. What can you, and I have four different things you can do if it's not one of your top priorities. You can delegate. This means having conversations with probably your husband more than anyone else, being able to ask for help and delegate. So I want to brainstorm with you guys, but just to give you a few examples, some things that I have done lately are I don't fold my husband's clothes anymore. I will clean the laundry, but then he's in charge of folding it and putting it away. And there's like 15-20 minutes of my time immediately back every time I do laundry. Um, I also talked to him about helping me more with the outdoor chores because so my husband works kind of crazy hours and it's put most of the outdoor work on me as well. I know that's kind of like typically a male job. um, but I had to have a conversation with him recently and I was like, I I can't do it. I need to give something up and that is not something I need to be doing. And it's not something that bothers me enough to have it be a top priority. Of course, I want my yard to look nice. I need the lawn mowed at some point, right? But it's not important enough for me to do it consistently because other things are more important to me right now. Some other things I delegated is to my boys, they put their laundry away. I will help them sort their laundry, but they put it away. Your kids are so much more capable than we give them credit for sometimes. And so being able to delegate to them, plus, like, I mean, really, that's what we want. It's a little bit more work up front right now. But once they kind of have that system down, again, I save so much time not putting my kids' clothes away, letting them just do it. And then another thing I've recently delegated is childcare. Through the summer, I asked my mom and my mother-in-law and my sister if they could just take a couple hours once a week. And I was so nervous to ask them. So this conversation with my sister specifically, I was like, hey, would you be able to do a couple hours just once a week to take the kids and have some time with you? And she was like, oh my goodness, I would love to do that. And she like sent me this screenshot of a note in her phone from like a month before I texted her of talk to Missy about taking the kids for a couple hours every week over the summer. And I was so nervous about it. And she was like, oh, I've been meaning to talk to you about this for a month. Another way you can do this is I used to do this with my friend that lived close to me that she moved away. But kid swaps. We would take a couple hours once a week, and she would get my kids one week. The next week I'd take her kids for a couple hours. Um, Another thing I've done here is I do meal swap with a couple people, and we each take one day a week and bring meals to the other people, and it's cut down on how many times I have to cook in a week. And actually it saved us money on our groceries too, because I'm buying more of like the same foods instead of having to get lots of different groceries. There's so many ways you can delegate that also don't necessarily cost a lot of money, because you can absolutely hire a housekeeper, hire a nanny for even if that's like 3 or 4 hours a week, right? But it doesn't necessarily need to cost you anything. So I want you to pick something that you can delegate.
I was sitting here trying to think about it when you were talking. And then when you were talking about having the kids put away their clothes, is I was like thinking like I definitely need to like let go of control of that, of how they get put away
Yes.
and things like that. Which I mean, my daughter's drawers are kind of always a disaster because she'll change like 3 times a day. But you know, like I'll go in and eventually just like refold everything and reorganize it and all that. So then I can put the clothes away. But I'm like, I've been wanting to like give them more responsibility because the older two, at least I have the older two are 6 and 4. And so I'm like, okay, they can definitely have some more responsibility and they do help out with things, but I need to let go of control of some things. And like if it's not done perfectly, like having I was thinking of having them like load the dishwasher or unload it, and then
Uh,
I'm like, oh, then it's not going to be loaded how I want it, you know. And so it's like I want to let go a little bit so that they can learn and grow and like have those responsibilities because they're going to need to learn those things anyways, and I'd rather them start early.
yeah, for sure. I I'm like laughing so hard over here because I am the queen of my way is the right way,
Yes.
especially with silly things like the way clothes are folded or the way the dishwasher is loaded. And I mean, my husband can attest that like I fixed it so many times. But honestly, why does it matter?
Yeah,
I ask
exactly.
myself that and I'm like, it just doesn't. I mean, like I feel like the only thing is I can definitely fit more in the dishwasher than he can
Yes, that's what
because
I
of
feel
the
like
way I
too.
load it. But also I fix it, and so he never gets a chance to even learn how to do it in a way that is going to fit more dishes in.
Yeah.
But seriously, like, why does it matter? Does it really matter that my kids' clothes aren't folded in the way I want? Like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And totally, like you said, being able to let go and and just let it happen, because that not only saves you time on, letting your kids take that responsibility. So they're learning responsibility, they're taking a chore off of your plate. And frankly, I spend less mental time and energy worrying about it.
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, that could be like its whole own slide of like, what can you say yes to and let go of just to give yourself some mental space?
Mental space is huge because
Like
there's not much.
one thing for me is like being able to say yes to my kids getting dirty. I kind of hate my kids being dirty because then it means more laundry, but truly it's less effort for me to have a couple more things in the laundry than to just let them play outside and get dirty.
Yeah.
But it's been really hard for me to let go. But I'm telling you, like the mental load it has taken off is crazy. Okay, so delegate. Next is drop. What can you just not even worry about? And also with all of this, it's okay if it's a season. So one of the things that I have just dropped right now is having a clean garage. It's just not happening right now. It's not a priority, and one day I will spend the time to really clean it up to get some more storage so there's actually a place to put everything, but right now is not that time. It's not worth, again, that mental energy. It's not worth the constantly like half cleaning things up, I'm just dropping it. Another thing that I have dropped personally is I have a second business, and it was taking too much of my time and energy, and I just had to drop it, at least for the time being. So, for you guys, again, what is something that you can drop? And I feel like this one is a little bit harder sometimes to come up with something. But again, it could be something like your garage or a toy room or a toy closet, or what is it that you can just drop and leave for right now and not worry about?
I think for me is like my kids' play area. I'm like, it was kind of causing me a lot of stress. Like, I gotta keep it clean, I gotta keep it clean. And now I'm like, okay, you know what? That is their area to just explore and to play. And I shouldn't worry about having it cleaned, because if they're gonna play, you know, it's totally fine. And like my 1-year-old, she'll just like go over and just like dump a box of toys, and I'm just like, I just clean that up. Like, and so that was causing me so much stress. So I
Yeah.
think that is something I could work on, is um being like, okay, that is their area to play. And I have been working on it, but I mean that's a good, I'm learning it's a good point of just like intentionally being like, okay, we don't need to worry about that. That's their area, and their area to take, delegate their responsibility of keeping that clean.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say here too that I am a big proponent of toy swaps. Just because even when they dump it out, I'm less overwhelmed and they are less overwhelmed if they have less toys to even choose from. Because I think that some of it is they get so overwhelmed. Like if we're getting overwhelmed, like they are absolutely getting overwhelmed. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
it's
was
like one more thing to add, but also like at least in our house, it is 100% worth it. My kids, I spend less time cleaning slash sitting there instructing my kids how to clean if they have less toys to even pick up to begin with.
yeah, I was just talking to my husband about this last night because and especially I would say like more so in my daughter's room, that I was like there's things that she just doesn't even play with that I know she likes, and like if her cousins come over they get it out and play with it, but if it's just her and her brother and whatever, like they don't even really play with it, but I know she likes it, so it's like I don't want to completely get rid of it, or it's like something learning where I'm like okay this is good for them, but they don't hardly ever get it out because there's all these other things in there
Yeah.
that too much to choose from. So yeah, I was just talking about doing this because I was like, okay, it's time to take, like she's got a whole flippin' bucket full of baby dolls. And I'm like, we don't need 10 baby dolls out. Like
Yeah,
she doesn't need this many out all the time. So
totally.
yeah.
Again, if we're overwhelmed by either choices or by how much there is to clean up, our kids are absolutely more overwhelmed and overstimulated than we are. So that's like a really good sign. Like if you're overstimulated, so are they.
Yeah.
Okay, next is diminish. With my boys' clothes, I also do not fold them. I have given up folding them because they end up, I mean, Jen, like you were saying, they ended up messed up in their drawer anyways, that like I'm not going to spend the time doing it. So I will help them sort their clothes, but then they have to put them away. So I also moved around their stuff a little bit to give them each. I had all of their stuff in one drawer, and when it's nicely folded, it fits great and they can see everything in one drawer. When it's all thrown in, I gave them a second drawer so that they could still find what they needed to and it would fit without everything going everywhere all the time. Another thing that I have done here is laundry's definitely been my like biggest pain point lately, because here's another laundry one. I have given up washing and folding on the same day. I'm just not even trying anymore, and I'm not even letting myself do it on the same day. Washing and folding is just happening on different days. And that just feels so much less overwhelming when I'm like, okay, I don't have to actually fold today too. That's tomorrow's task. And honestly, my laundry has been done for 2 or 3 days and I still haven't folded it. But it's clean, so it's fine. I really have like so had to let go of laundry so much because it was stressing me out. I was spending so much time and energy focused on laundry, which I just don't want to be doing. So, how can you diminish?
That's hard. I was even thinking like with drop, it's hard to like find something. With laundry, I just popped in my head with you talking about it is like I do not fold as soon as it comes out of the dryer. Like I will let it pile pile up at least during the entire day. And for me, it's so much, it seems less stressful and is nicer for me if I can do it after the kids go to bed and I just like turn on a show and sit and watch and fold laundry. Like that is like therapeutic for me. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's like it's really hard to pick something to like drop or like semi let go of because I'm like, but these things need to be done. So it's like trying to shift my brain from being like, okay, not all these things don't all have to be done all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like this is a season and you might find something that works for the summer and then when school starts up again, it might shift and that is great. But just being able to kind of think of things a little bit differently, like you said, and it doesn't always have to be all done all the time exactly how we want it to because other things are more important.
One thing that with like the diminish that I've been thinking a lot about, and we're getting ready to move upstairs where we're living, and I've been like, I'm just like organizing, I think has been like a big thing in my head, and like decluttering more to speak. Like I feel like my mom and I have been talking a lot about it, and like how much, if the clutter is in our lives, then the clutter, like it shows up. I mean, how much more happier you are when you don't have all that clutter in your life. And so I've been working on that. It's so hard to scale back, especially when you want to like store, stuff that you could use in the future, or
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. There's so many things, and so that's one thing I've been working on is just like diminishing the amount of stuff that I have so that it's less work for me to use later. But yeah, that was kind of my thought.
I love that example. That wasn't a perspective I had thought about, but I think that what we were talking about with toy swaps totally fits into this category.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, like the amount of stuff out. If I have less out, I am automatically less overwhelmed, even if all of it is out. Right? Just having less. I love that.
When she said that, I was like, oh, I didn't even think about it that way. But that's definitely something that like I think would help is to actually diminish the things, not
Yeah.
just like the things on my to-do list, but actually the things in the house. So
Yeah.
that's a really good point.
Oh yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Bethany. That was
You're
like
welcome.
blew my mind a little bit, but yes, it
No,
totally
but it's
fits.
so true. And I've been like still learning about it. I mean, what's most productive is if you listen to like a cleaning audiobook about organizing or something as you're doing it, because it just like motivates you like no other. I
I
was like,
love
we're
it.
Yeah.
getting rid of this, we're getting rid of that. Like I had a whole um donation box done by like the end of me listening to that. So I mean, I'm still working on it. I'm not perfect. And then I bring stuff into the house sometimes still, but like I think it's just going to be a constant thing for me, but it's something I am working on to like declutter, to take out the clutter in my own life.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
I like
Um,
that.
one thing that I have started doing, I saw someone do it like years ago, is they had a drawer that was just like the DI Savers drawer. And as they came across something that they're like, we don't need this anymore, you know, you switch kids' clothes sizes and you're like, okay, they never really wore this. You just stick it in the drawer. or the box or the whatever it is. And when that place is full, you take it. I mean, really, let's be honest, it sits in your car for like a month before you actually get there, but like at least it's out of the house. But just having that, I started doing that with I just have a box in my closet that's the DI box. And so getting rid of them, and that has actually helped a lot to just constantly kind of have a place to put things, because otherwise I say, oh, I'll get to it eventually, but then it becomes like this huge project instead of kind of doing it as I go. So
That's definitely where I'm at right now with like baby and kid clothes because we're done. So I'm like, I'm not saving for another baby,
uh-huh.
but it's also hard to like get rid of some things. Like I need to shift my mindset on like, okay, I'll keep these few things because I have such a hard time. Like I know they're just clothes, but I have a hard time getting rid of them, you know?
Yes,
And so
totally.
it's hard. So I'm like, okay, trying to get my mindset in the right space where it's like I can get rid of because it's simple little things like I kept some of my daughter's headbands and stuff. I'm like, she's never gonna wear these again,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's like trying to shift the mindset of like, okay, let's just pick a few things. And so I think that's a really good idea, Bethany, to listen to something so that you can be like, okay, that's right. I don't need that. Like I need somebody to tell me like you don't need this.
I feel like
Yes.
it's so much easier when you don't have somebody who lives with you help you organize or declutter. Like
Yes.
whenever I've moved, I've had my mother-in-law with me and she's like, "Okay, do you really need that? Do you, like." And so it's like, "Okay, yeah, I really probably don't use that enough to make it worth keeping, you know?" So,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
audiobooks, podcasts, a family member, friend, those are all that's how I found it's helpful.
That's a
I
really good
love
idea.
that. All right, last one is delay. This one we kind of talked about a little bit actually, of just like, you'll get to it. So like vacuuming in the bathroom for me, that's where I've put this for right now. Of I know that the bathroom will get cleaned and the vacuuming will get done at some point. It but I'm not going to specifically plan it out and be like I have to do it this day, because I will find a pocket of time sometime in the week, or early the next week, when it drives me crazy enough to like actually make the time to do it, and I'm just not even putting it on my to-do list right now, because it will happen eventually.
The bathroom for me is definitely something I tend to delay. And I've thought like, is it just because I don't enjoy doing it, or is it because it's not my top priority? Um, that's definitely something I delay just because it is harder to get to with the little ones
Uh-huh.
because I can't have like I can have my daughter help me. She's 4, like she can kind of help wipe some things down if she wants to be involved. But like my youngest, it's like I really can't have him in there because he's gonna shove his hand
Yeah.
in the toilet or
I
he's
think
gonna,
we all have 1-year-olds right now.
oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm like we're
So
we're
Yep, pretty
definitely in
much.
the
they're in everything. Yeah, he
yeah.
just for
Yes.
the first time, I don't know if any of my other kids maybe they did, but I don't remember. But for the first time, he just threw one of my other son's cars in the toilet the other day. And so we were like, thankfully it didn't try to get flushed down, but we were like, oh, okay, it's begun, like we have
Yeah,
to watch that. But yeah, so
totally.
it's like I can't really have him awake, but then usually when he's sleeping, his bedroom is right by the bathroom. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to clean that right now because I don't want to wake him up.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely something that I delay. And I'm like, it kind of drives me crazy. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I will get to it in a few days. Or when, like, if my husband's home and then
Mhm.
he can take the kids outside for a little bit, or he can do it, whichever, either way.
Yeah. But I think with this intentionally, because you said, oh, I kind of delayed that one anyways, but intentionally saying, I'm going to delay this and it'll happen when it happens, all of a sudden you've taken that pressure off of like, okay, but I should be doing this.
Yeah.
The should kind of just goes away when you're like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And that's okay whenever it happens.
Yeah, definitely.
Coming back to what we were talking about earlier of what are you avoiding? Because man, we would have so much more time if we would stop avoiding things, which usually looks like social media is like the very most common one. What are you avoiding? And actually taking the time to sit and what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? Where do I feel this in my body? And letting it, so emotions only sit in your body for 90 seconds at a time. At least the vast majority do. And usually we spend much more than 90 seconds avoiding something instead of taking the 90 seconds to just feel it and then move on with our day. And so being able to say, okay, what do I usually avoid? What do I do to avoid it? And I am so much better at taking that 90 seconds to just sit and feel the thing and then move on with my day. And I create more time to actually do what I want or need to be doing.
Yeah, I was thinking like as soon as the question popped up, I could totally feel my face. I was like, ooh, like so many things. I do that a lot. And so yeah, it was like as soon as it popped up, I was like, oh man, you know, I mean, there's things I avoid housework wise, but it's definitely usually that of like I'm avoiding or trying to avoid feeling stressed or anxious or um things like that. Like this morning, my husband got my oldest ready for, well, he got himself ready at 6:40 this morning and he doesn't start till 8:25. So I don't know why he was awake and ready so early, but he like got him breakfast. My husband got him breakfast and like got him to school and everything. And I felt guilty coming out or shameful, I guess, like sleeping in and stuff, even though I was sick, like, yes, it was nice that he did it, but it was like I still felt bad that like I had slept in and stuff. So then I noticed I went to my phone and I was like, this is just making it worse. What am I doing? And like this is just making the feeling worse. But it was like something easy to distract from what I was feeling.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is the last thing is reframing busy. Busy for me feels rushed and chaotic and busy is
Yeah.
just so blood to me, but it's almost this badge of honor of like, oh, we're so busy. Oh, life is so busy. I want you to stop using the word busy and just change it to full. Life is so full right now. And full can still be a lot going on, but I feel so much more calm. I feel more joy. I feel more gratitude. It completely the whole idea behind it is like the same, but it feels so different. So different. And I am more of the person I want to be when I think full than when I think busy.
Yeah, I like that a lot because I mean, we just ended baseball season and we had two in baseball. And so it was definitely full and crazy half the time. Like our weeks were definitely full with schedules. And so we have kind of a break during the summer and then we'll start up with two in soccer in the fall. And so I think honestly with little kids though, like it's just full 24/7 because there's always something that they're doing or something to do or something going on. But I really like that is reframing that and not because I totally feel that is like, oh, and then I feel like I have to rush my kids because like we have to go, we have to go, we have to go. And when in reality, like I don't have to get to the grocery store right this second.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to make a
Oh,
big
yes.
difference whether we get there 20 minutes, like
And
whatever.
rushing takes so much longer.
Yes. And also they take 10 years to put shoes on. So
Oh, yeah.
it's like, and it's always when you're feeling rushed or hurry,
Mhm.
like we have to hurry, we have to go. And so, yeah, trying
Yeah.
to like reframe some, there's been times where I've been like, okay, come on, guys, let's just go. And it's just because I just want to get out and get things done. But I need to be like, okay, it's not that big of a deal if I leave in 10, 15 minutes rather than if I leave right this second.
Yeah, totally. I mean, church is like the biggest one for us. We're always late to church. We're always late to church. But walking in 2 minutes late versus 5 minutes late truly does not make a difference, except that when I walk in 5 minutes late because I wasn't rushing, I am actually ready to be at church versus being angry and annoyed and like that's not going to help me feel the spirit at church, right? Like that's not going to help me at all.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, being able to kind of just step back and be like, it's fine. It's fine. It's all going to be okay and I'm going to show up way more how I want to if I will stop the rush. Awesome. Hopefully you're walking away with, okay, I have some new things I can start thinking, even if that's just my life is full instead of busy. You are more aware of when you're avoiding. You have a few things you can do to create more time in your day and avoid the stress, and that you're also more aware of like, okay, these are my top priorities and these things make the biggest difference. And so that's where I'm going to spend my time instead of focusing on everything all the time, all at once. If this was helpful for you, I want to invite you into Happy Moms Club, which is finally open. I'm so excited. So, this is for you if you feel confused and lost navigating motherhood alone and are just exhausted from trying to willpower your way through trying to do better. I I just need more motivation like that feeling of just, oh, I just need to be doing better. I just need to try a little bit harder. It's exhausting and it doesn't have to be that way. If you are wanting more time to actually connect with your kids and enjoy your kids and enjoy motherhood instead of never getting through the just a minute that you keep saying you'll be, and then like we talked about before of, oh, I'll be there in just a minute, and then you get to the end of the day and you never sat down and played like you meant to. If you are already a happy mom and just want an extra dose of happy and fun with other mamas who are also working on this and who get it because they are right there with you with littles. So it's a monthly membership. And some of the things you'll get are we'll do a monthly class. And it's going to be a class just like this to specifically give you more time and energy to spend with your kids and for yourself. And with this, there's going to be a monthly challenge. So everyone is going to be focusing on the same thing surrounding whatever the monthly class topic is. And then we'll have accountability check-ins because we're not doing this alone, right? We're not going to be just powering through anymore. We'll have someone keeping tabs on us and giving us encouragement and love through it all. We'll also do a monthly Q&A coaching session for just anything you're struggling with to kind of go along with the monthly class. We'll have a group chat to remind you that you're a freaking amazing mom for any advice, things that come up, whether that is just, I need help creating more time, or I need potty training advice, whatever it is. And then when you're just feeling stuck and tired and need a little encouragement. And then we'll do monthly girls' nights, which are kind of to be determined depending on what we want. I thought about doing like virtual games or a book club or like some kind of watch party. Like I said, to be determined, but it's gonna be super fun. And then it is $47 a month. There's a 3-month minimum, and then you can cancel anytime. If you sign up during this round, you will get a fun happy mail package of just fun little things because I think getting mail is so much fun. So just a couple questions. Is it financially worth it? Heck freaking yes. So often we spend money on eating out and drink runs and Target or Amazon runs, and that spending is usually trying to fill a hole because we're avoiding things, remember? This will fill the hole because we're actually addressing what is going on underneath and save you money. You're spending less. It's the job training you never got as a caregiver, as a homemaker. And then I also want you to think, what would it be worth to you to have enough energy and time in the day to go to sleep knowing that you did enough to really love motherhood and your kiddos and and have the tools to help your kids with the hard things in life, with the big emotions, without losing your big emotions yourself. Will this work for me specifically? If you're willing to put in some effort up front, heck yes. A little effort on the front end will save you so much time and energy because in the club, we don't do motherhood alone. And I guarantee you will increase your good moments, your good days, and turn the tides to being an overall happier mom. And I want to say happier, not always happy, because we're humans, not robots. And those hard emotions are good and they're going to come. And we don't want to expect to be happy all the time because that's not realistic. But also, if in 3 months that is not the case and you truly put in the effort, I will absolutely give you your money back. What if my family's needs get in the way? This is here to support you so that you can better support your family. When life gets heavy, you need more support, not less. And in this, the support is already built in. But also, if life happens, you can totally cancel your membership. Thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you guys later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Missy.
Thanks for joining me on this week's episode. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, so message me on Instagram at @themissyallred. There is always room in our village, so if you enjoyed it, will you please send it to a friend or leave a rating and review? Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. Thank you for being here. I'll talk to you next week.